Hello, I'm Jennifer Maxwell, and welcome to Easy and Effective Communication for Life using the DISC personality profiles. It's similar to something like Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder or the Colby testing. It's just a different way to quickly assess the person you're communicating with so you can appeal to the way they see the world and their major motivations. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Okay, easy and effective communication for life. It really is simple. And I've been using this technique for about 15 years. And a little bit more information about me is that I am a human behavior consultant using the DISC personality profiles, as I mentioned, and I have a 90% closing rate track record in my last business, which is really unheard of. But I knew that if I could just get in front of my clients, that I would have an opportunity to close them. And I did 90% of the time. So now I actually have transitioned to helping business professionals, students, anyone who knows a human, become the one that everyone loves to buy from or work with. So it doesn't matter where you are in your life right now, whether you're looking for a job, if you're a student, if you're running a business, these skill sets are transferable, and I'm excited to share. So the biggest takeaway I want you to have today is adjust or bust. Right up front, that is the key component to really having effective communication, is adjusting who you are so that your listener can relate to you. You know, I know that we're in a fast and furious age where people like to show up on social media like the influencers, like this is who I am and just take it or leave it. And that only works to a degree. And there is a component to actually communicating. That is really just one-way communication. So if you're of the mindset that I'm just going to be who I am and like take me or leave me, there will be a lot of bumps in the road to accessing the kind of future you're looking for. So adjust your approach to whomever you're speaking with for best results. So if you're following along, you can pull out your notes. If you have a fillable PDF to correspond with this, go ahead and pull that out and we'll work through this together. So the three components for effective communication starts at the heart, which is you. You are now going to be the Yoda, the master, the one who really just pulls this whole communication piece together. So the first part is understanding yourself. That is a key component. You have to know who you are so that you can, perhaps in contrast or comparison, understand others. What is it that they're bringing to you and sharing with you in their communication? And the third and final component is adjusting your approach. We mentioned that earlier. What is it that you need to do to be able to appeal to the person you're speaking with? And we're not talking manipulation. We are talking about, you know, if someone sees the world through rose-colored glasses and yours are green, well, it's hard to communicate. So you want to come around to kind of stand beside them and see the world the way they see the world so that you can speak a similar language and approach to life. So that's really what we're talking about here. So why should you care about communication? Besides, you know, if you're taking this for one of your courses, that's part of it. But more importantly, we're talking about the ability to have a way better atmosphere. I mean, at school, at home, at work, whatever it might be. And who doesn't want a more comfortable atmosphere to be in? That's a really key thing to consider, because conflict is not enjoyable. It's not good for your heart. It's not good for your health in any way. Better jobs. So this, if you're looking to, you know, get out in the workforce, you know, people think, oh, if I just learn this skill, then I'll be really prepared and ready for this job. However, your skill set is only 15% of what's required. And the other part of your position in your job, the 85% is actually your ability to communicate. So this is massive. And so moving on to another really great and important factor in good communication is making more money. See the step above. If you want a good job, you have to be able to communicate effectively. And you know, there's a great quote that you may or not have heard. It's said, "You're hired for what you do, and you're fired for how you do it." Again, if it's a skill set that can be replaced with somebody that can communicate better, chances are that person's going to get hired and keep the job. So that is something worth considering. So there are really just two questions for the DISC personality profile, which is why I love it. The ease of use is just the best I found. So the first question you want to ask yourself or ask yourself when you're relating to someone else, am I, or is this person outgoing or reserved? Now, you may find yourself a bit of both. And in fact, we're all a blend of all four quadrants, and there are four main quadrants. So sometimes I'm outgoing, I'm almost 50-50. Sometimes I'm outgoing, sometimes I'm reserved. So for the purpose of this class right now, I just want you to answer, do I feel more outgoing in this moment, or do I feel more reserved? And if you want to change your mind later, that's totally fine. So the way to determine that is pretty obvious. Outgoing person is really, expressive, and they have a lot of energy, and they're kind of loud, and they move through space quickly, and they have a lot to say. A reserved person, of course, would be a little more reserved. That's obvious, right? A little quieter in the way they speak. They don't really want to be noticed. So those are some of the key indicators to help you determine whether you might be outgoing or reserved. Secondly, and more importantly, is whether someone is task-focused or people-focused. So I want you to consider really where you land. And again, you may be flip between the two of them. I certainly do. But I will explain perhaps the task type personality is someone that loves lists. So you get up in the morning, you've got your checklist of all the things you want to accomplish and get done. And the first thing you write is write a checklist so you have something you can scratch off. So if that's you, you may fall under the task category. So you go through your day, you're accomplishing all the things, and when you get to bed at night, you're running the list of all the things that you have done. And you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot that thing. And then you pull out your phone or a pad of paper and you make a note so that you can make sure it gets on your list the next day. If that's you, that's probably means that you're more of a task person. A people person, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So the people person at night goes to bed thinking about all the fun interactions they had, how lovely it was to catch up with someone they hadn't in a while. Maybe you saw a funny meme on Facebook, or if you watch the news, forget the politics. What you really want to know is, how did they get that cat out of the tree, and who did they save? And we've got new Canadians or people that are coming in and building a business, and they're very successful, and so you're maybe more interested in the human interest stories. So that's the difference between task and people. And the key note here is that this is where 90% of the conflict happens. So whether you're outgoing or reserved, that's fine. Most people can manage that and deal with that. It's the task versus people component that has major conflict show up. So that is the key factor. So think of that as you keep going. Okay, so now let's take a look at the four quadrants. I'd like you to find yourself on this quadrant. So if you feel like you're more outgoing, you're going to be in the top half in the D or the I section. And if you're more reserved, you're going to fall in either the C or the S quadrant. If you are more task focused, you're going to be either in the D or the C quadrant. And if you're more people focused, you're going to be more in the I or the S quadrant. So have a quick look and kind of put yourself in one of those. Again, you can change your mind, and if you realize as we do the next tile it doesn't quite fit, find the area that suits you most, and that's probably where you're going to land most of the time. Again, we're a blend of all four. We all have all four quadrants. It just is sometimes that one or two tend to lead the pack more than the rest. So here is the quick and dirty chart for the DISC personality profile. I love it because all the letters and the words line up with their corresponding letter. So if you're outgoing and task focused, you're probably a D personality. That is the most dominant trait if you're looking at sort of four archetypes in our humanity as we go through the world. Direct, demanding a little bit you can be, decisive, you're determined, you're a doer. These people like to achieve a lot of things and get a lot of things done. Done is your favorite word if that's in your category. So moving along, we're going to move over to the I types, outgoing and people focused. So this is the inspired type. So you're influencing, impressionable, interactive, impressive, and interesting. Your favorite thing is like fun. If it's fun, I'm there, right? You just want people to have a good time together, and you really make the atmosphere a lot of excitement around you. So that's kind of what you bring to the table. Moving down to our reserved and people side is the S quadrant, which is for supportive, steady, stable, sensitive, status quo, a little bit shy. Sometimes another word is like sucker. We trust so many people. We get taken because we just believe the best in people. And also self-sacrificing. If you would stay up to help a friend all night and then not get your, work assignment done, that is something that you may have to pay attention to. So that's another component of being S-natured. You're very self-sacrificing. Moving on to the reserved and task-focused is the C quadrant, and that would be our cautious. They're also calculating, competent, conscientious, contemplative, careful, and compliant is another one. You love the rules. You just follow the rules, and then it all makes sense and nobody gets hurt. There are reasons for rules. You make them. They're steady for a purpose, and if you follow them, everything will go as planned. So that is DISC in a nutshell. So quickly have a look and see where your main quadrant is. Say, yeah, no, I really kind of identify with this. And you might even have a secondary quadrant that feels right. Go ahead and just kind of make a note about that. In fact, on the fillable PDF, you're going to have to kind of give yourself a bit of a ranking. What is your most and what is your least? And then fill the secondary and third traits to see where you might land. That will help you as you navigate the communication portions. So some great examples of famous people you may know in these quadrants. Again, these are extreme examples because we're all a blend, but it gives you a general idea of how people show up and how they're perceived in the world. So if we're talking about outgoing and task-focused people, the D quadrant, we're looking at people like Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. There's no crying in business, right? He's a great example. He just wants to know, how am I going to make the money? Next, I would note Kamala Harris. She is the Joe Biden's running partner for VP in the U.S. currently. It's funny, you'll notice the two of them both have that same kind of hand gestures. So they're making their points. They're getting things done. They want you to be emphatic about what they're saying. Another great example, of course, Muhammad Ali. What's interesting is that this quadrant loves to say, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm, all those things that kind of come along with it. You can see it right there in the ad, Muhammad Ali, the greatest. So another great sharpshooter right there. He's given it like it is. You'll notice that right beside Muhammad Ali is the exclamation mark. So they are emphatic, and that's another indicator. I would say that's a good symbol for the high D. So those are three quick examples. Moving on to the high I's, the symbol would be a star, and you'll actually note that many high I's are great entertainers and personalities that are fun, and they are stars. They don't mind being in the spotlight. In fact, it gives them a lot of energy, and they love that interactive rapport they have with people. So I just put three comedians, for example, or actually Jim Carrey started off with stand-up comedy, but of course he went into movies, but very expressive faces. That's a really key indicator that you're dealing with a high I. They have a lot of energy and they make a lot of great faces. Maya Rudolph, of course, another great comedian and actor, SNL and a number of movies. And of course, Chris Rock, a great comedian. So those are just a few examples of a high I personality. Moving down to the reserved, but still people-focused, again, is our S personality. These are the nicest people you will ever meet. Their pace is a little slower. They're a little more intentional. And Mr. Rogers is a great example, right? Everyone is special, everyone is equal, and they see the world through that capacity. They love and cherish and believe that all people need to have the rights that everyone does. I personally believe that too, of course. Mother Teresa is another great example of that. She was in the streets of Calcutta helping the poorest of the poor. Her whole mantra was just loving people, to heal them or even into their death. So, really heart-centered people, that's their mission, is to serve people in the world. Of course, Mahatma Gandhi, another great example of this, even in this quote, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. He wasn't about being aggressive. He was about change, but doing it in a gentle and peaceful way. That is a great example of S-natured personalities. Moving over to our C quadrants. So the C's are like the smartest people. Oh, I should go back. So they're symbol would be plus or minus. Either way, they're very easygoing. They're very balanced. So that's a good symbol for them. Over here, the C's are curious. They're always questioning. They have question after question after question, and they have long game. They will go for the research, and they take years to find solutions for things, and they're committed to finding the outcome because they want the truth. They are really focused on the facts. And doing things right and correctly. C for correct. So here we have an example of Captain Sully. You may recall about just over a decade ago, a miracle in the Hudson was what it was called. This pilot took off with a plane full of passengers out of LaGuardia. 3 minutes in, a flock of Canadian geese hit the engines. He didn't even have enough, ability to turn around and land back on the tarmac. He actually had to land the plane in the Hudson in a matter of, seconds. So he had to come in perfectly well on the water, just straight. If, one small turn, everything cartwheels and everyone dies. So really high stakes. He landed beautifully. Every single passenger got out, and it was like amazing. So they asked him later, so Captain Sully, was it a miracle? He was like, no, it's not a miracle. It's a culmination of all of the hard work of people coming together and making the right decisions at the right time. So that's an indicator of a high C personality. Of course, Seth Godin is another one. If you don't follow him, he does marketing, but he's a great thinker, and he's always very interested in much deeper thoughts. Of course, we also have Mary Jackson. She was in a movie called Hidden Gems, which came out a couple of years ago. And she was one of the first Black American women to actually become an engineer at NASA. So this was really, not only was she, breaking boundaries, but she was an amazing mind. So she was a mathematician and an aerospace engineer. So these people, again, like the smartest people you'll ever know. So don't argue with them because they are right. So that's a quick overview of the 4 main archetypes in the DISC personality. And if you start to kind of, again, you don't want to categorize people exactly in those 4 quadrants, but they really lend themselves to the types of characteristics. In fact, you'll see it on sitcoms. If you watch a lot of TV, there'll be many of these 4 characters within, because it offers a balance, and everybody together combined brings a little bit of friction, and that's what makes the comedy fun. So as you go about your day, you're going to start to notice that people generally fit into one of those categories. At least at some point in their day, they're going to be operating from one of those main categories. Okay, so now, what you're looking for are some of the clues. And in my previous business, I was always looking for these sort of more main 4 things. There's many, many clues, but let me just start you off with these 4. The first one is their face. What is their resting face like? When I would sit at a restaurant, or a coffee shop, and I would meet these clients, I would always get there first and watch how they came in. This is a big clue. What does their face look like? If they are people focused, they are going to be a bit more smiling or interested. So they're walking and they're looking. If they're a little more reserved, they're quietly smiling, but they are looking to see who is the person I'm going to meet. Eyes walk in like they're making friends with everybody. So they're generally happy and, hey, it's great to meet you. But a task person will be a little bit different. They are on task, and their face will look like this. They're like, I'm trying to get there. I got this meeting. Who am I meeting with? Where am I going? What seats are available? So noticing how people move through space with their face, their first symbol, will tell you whether someone is task-focused or people-focused. The next big clue is body language. Of course, how do they move through space? Outgoing people tend to have bigger gestures. So they're moving, they're opening doors, they're slamming things around, they're throwing their bags on. Reserved people don't want to be noticed. So they're a little more reserved in their motions. They're kind of quietly assessing and looking around. So those are some indicators about how, what someone might be operating from in that moment. Clothing choices are another thing. It's interesting, anybody who's outgoing, they don't mind if they're looked at, but they want to be looking good and polished. So Ds are very practical. They like to wear red. So, but they don't have a lot of dangles or jewels. So if you think about, they would wear a power suit with a red tie. So they're professional, they're getting the job done, and they want you to know that they're in control. High eyes would be a lot of dangly jewelry and things, and there's scarves and sequins, and they don't mind, like off the shoulder. They don't mind if you look at them. So there's going to be a lot of, they're usually very beautifully put together, or they may have like patterns that you would not think would fit, like polka dot and plaid, and like somehow they're making it work. So if you would ever describe someone as fabulous, they're probably a high eye. S's, I would say, are probably not very fashion forward. And I use that with air quotes, and I don't mean it in a negative way. What I mean is the most important motivation is to get out the door and do what's required, not what's on your body. So if they got a call from a friend at the hospital, they would just grab the sweater closest to the door and get there to be with their friend, because that's the most important thing. A high eye might say, oh, I should probably, put on some lipstick and makeup because there might be a cute doctor. So the motivation is a little bit different. I is all about image, I for image, and looking good, right? That's what our stars in Hollywood are all about. S's are more concerned with the relationship and making sure that they're there and they're heart-centered and doing the right thing for the people. C's are also, they want to be well dressed and appropriate for they want to be correctly dressed. So they would probably do things like monochromatic, like, black on black, navy on navy, cream on cream, things match, not out of fashion, like look at me, I'm so fabulous, but more out of high quality, and it works for the job. So if I'm going to get rain boots for working on a farm, they might be the best rain boots I could get because they're high quality. They may not even be the prettiest sometimes, but they're not going to leak, and they're getting the correct boot for the job, kind of thing. So consider that when you're looking. And finally, another main thing I look for is the dialogue, both spoken and written. D's are very direct, so they're going to be quick. They want bullet points. They want bottom line results. I's have a lot of stories, and it's really fun. And oh my God, this thing happened on the way. And their emails might be really long, or their dialogue is really interesting, and they have lots of stuff to say. S's are great listeners, so they might nod along, and sometimes you have to prod them for a bit more information. And they'll talk about things that matter to them, but they're very great listeners. So that's something to notice as well. C's, they're also listening, or they're discerning whether you have got enough chops here. They're looking for the right information. Do you know more than they do, which is what they're looking for. However, if you get a C talking about a subject that they're passionate about, they have so much data. It's like listening to an encyclopedia. So those are some main clues when it comes to written or spoken language and dialogue with people. Okay, so these are the 4 key motivators, the 4 R's. This is essential to really being able to connect with the person, either your potential client, an employer, a teammate, a spouse, it doesn't matter. This is what matters to each of the quadrants. So the D's are all about results, bottom line. They want power and control and choice, achievement. They want it done. So if you think about again, oh my gosh, Kevin O'Leary, you'll notice that he's got a list of, I own this many businesses, and I've taken this many businesses to millions of dollars, and he can list off all of the achievements and accomplishments that he has done in his business and his life, because that is what fuels. They love it. They want to have results. So if you can bring a project that says, listen, this project is going to give you these results, you're going to speak their language instantly, and they're going to be interested. So if you go and say, well, it's really important that people are made to feel special, they don't care. They don't care about that. So you need to appeal to them in a way that makes them interested. So that's what they're looking for, results. I's, on the other hand, they're looking for recognition. So they want to be, I was up for this award. They want to be popular. And like they want to inspire others. I hear this a lot from many entrepreneurs. Like, I want to be a speaker because I want to inspire everybody. So and have fun. That's another thing. So if you can say, perhaps if you bring a project, this is going to be really great recognition for you. You're going to get a lot of followers on your social media. You'll have access to more people, and you can get your message out. That is very appealing to them. Or if there's an award involved, or a title, or any of those things, that is appealing for a high I. So consider that when you're bringing offers to someone. Moving down into the S quadrant, reliability really matters for an S. They are all about safety first. S for safe, right? So they don't want any risk. So, no risk, 100% guarantee, because they will need to go and check with their spouse, perhaps, before they make a decision about something. And they don't want, if their spouse is like, no, we're not doing that, they don't want to be on the hook or stuck. And they also want to know that you have tried and true systems. Will this work for me? Will this, how many times have you done this before? I need to know that I can trust that this is going to be okay. And they're all about fairness. So if an S-natured person was to walk into a car dealership, they might go for a minivan with captain's chairs. Everybody gets a captain's chair. We're not talking to benches, because then that wouldn't be fair. We all have the same. So that is really important for them. So reliability, that's their high R motivation. Moving on to the C personalities, they want to be right. It's very true. They're all about accuracy, facts, rules, compliance, and correctness. So they love to write policies. They are policy makers. The rules apply so that overall it really just makes sense and everybody can stay on track, and nothing is going to go wrong here. So those are the 4 motivations. If you can bring a project and you can say, look, if we do this project, what do you think about this? Tell me what you think would be some critical things to move this project ahead. They love to be included. They're like, oh, well, I can see right away they've got a really strategic mind about where problems occur. They are problem solvers and they see them 20 steps out. So work with that and allow them to be part of the process and get their input. And when you do that, you'll also get their buy-in. So those are the 4 main motivations for each of the quadrants. Okay. This was a game changer when I learned this. So I'm delivering this to you as one of the best gifts, because many people think that when you do sales or you try to convince people, it's all the same way, a one-size-fits-all sales approach. It never works because no 2 people are alike. So here's the most important thing. Again, we need to talk about task versus people, right? They're different. So when you're looking at the bottom here, connection is where you're going to start, but you want to build rapport. Rapport is like top of the ladder. This is where you're cooking with gas in terms of the connection. For a people person, for a task person, they are not interested in people. They want to know first and foremost that they can trust you, that they can trust your process, that you can put your money where your mouth is. So they don't want to make small talk, and they're not interested in making friends. So if you go in and try to schmooze a task person, you will turn them off and you will not get the business or get the job or get the work done. So you need to build trust first. Trust comes in the forms of facts and figures, bottom lines, and the result. After that, if they believe that you can deliver what you say you will, they will move on to the upper echelon of relationship. You may get a bit of information about, their family dog is dying and it's 14 years old and the kids are crying about it or whatever it might be. So that's what don't go in looking to try to make small talk. And if you wonder why they're cold or non-responsive, it's because you're talking too much and they're not interested in that. They want to know if you can do the job first. So noting that is key to building that rapport instantly. It's different, of course, for people. People want to build relationship first. They want to know if you're nice enough that they could trust you with the business. So for example, if you're out on a date for the first time and your date is rude to the waiter, you are a people person, you're like, I would never date you again because look at how rude you are to people. That's not okay. You have to, why are you being like that? So you will never get to the trust factor if you do it that way. So build a relationship first. People are the ones that want the small talk. Tell me about your ride in and tell me about your mom. Do you have any siblings? All those kinds of small talk helps solidify their opinion about you, whether you're a nice enough person, whether you're a good enough person to trust with their money or trust with the project, whatever it might be. So that is a huge dividing factor right there. And this one is what had me have that 90% closing rate. You need to connect with your listener and your audience. Consider, is your listener task oriented or are they people oriented? And that's where you're watching for those clues, because they all give you information about how to build that rapport. And you can build that deeper connection with anyone, provided you do it in their way. Okay. So here are some things that you want to do, and this is going to be in your fillable PDF. If you're doing that, I want you to take a look at some specific actions you can take. If you're dealing with a task person, specifically a D, this is what you want to focus on. Action-based results, be brief and specific. They love bullet points. Be credible. Yes, here's the evidence. Provide challenge and choices. They love a challenge. They want to choose. They don't want to be sold anything. They want the opportunity to buy, for example. And you want to get to bottom line results. Where am I going to make my money? Okay, here's how it's going to work. Does that sound good for you? Can I give you more details now? Okay, so you start with the high level for them. Ask them if you can proceed with more details, because that's going to really inform all the other stuff. They'll appreciate that you're being direct, and then they will likely allow you to expand. Similarly, with the C personalities, also task, you want to check your facts. You can't come in and be like, oh my God, this is going to be really good. Just trust me, okay? They will never fall for that. They're like, show me the data. And they're the people that like PDF after PDF or other links or research and data. So avoid emotional appeal. If you're crying, like there was in the Dragon's Den, somebody's like, I just really want this. And like, oh, you're just going to kill your opportunity, because while Kevin O'Leary may be a D, he was like, oh God, there's no crying in business, right? So avoid that. Answer questions carefully. They're looking for quality answers that matters to them. Be specific on points of agreement. Provide, so if you have a contract, so this is what I'm going to deliver, this is what you're going to deliver by these dates. Everybody agree to that? Okay, and they will hold true to it, and you need to hold true to it as well. Provide proof. Show a pro and con balance sheet. If you do pro and con sheets, you are probably in the high C quadrant, because it helps you determine what matters most. That is that trust factor first, and then we'll deal with the important stuff later, like, or the other, not, to them it's not as important. That's like relational stuff. They want to know the facts and figures first. Conversely, we have, we want to build a relationship with the people. So some of the things you want to focus on, if you're dealing with the high I's, you want to let them express their ideas. I's have so many ideas, and they're plentiful. They're like, they just erupt all the time. It's fascinating to watch them because they are idea makers. It's amazing. And you want to keep a friendly environment. Listen, they're all about having fun. So if there's conflict, it's not great for them. They're not going to be enjoying that. And you want to focus on their accomplishments. So it's like, what have you accomplished already? Wow, this is really going to lend itself to what you've already accomplished, and provide recognition for their achievements. So just noting them and seeing how that could tie together and work with them will provide a lot of support for whatever it is you're trying to do. And gently steer them back to business. They're fast talkers. They are idea jumpers. If you notice that it's hard to kind of get any major thought out, you're probably dealing with a high I. So you've got to say, okay, that's amazing. Let's look at this contract again and see if we can iron out those details. So gently steer them back. S's are the ways that you want to appeal to them in the relationship side first is to be warm, agreeable, unthreatening. If they feel like you got to sign this thing before the end of the day or it's not going to go through, that is too threatening. You have to bring your pace down a little bit and give them the opportunity to think it through. They need talk slowly and do not rush them is the next one. It's sort of like picking up a turtle and going vroom, vroom, vroom and trying to get it to go faster. It's not going to go faster. It's just going to retreat and pull its head and legs in. So that is the same thing. Not like S's are slow people or thinkers, but they are methodical, and every thought is like a mobile. If I make a change here, how will it affect the outcome for everything else that I've got to get done? So give them the opportunity to modify how that change might affect every other area of their life. Again, show appreciation for their interests. S's just want to be appreciated. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and it means so much. They love to be appreciated because they do a lot of appreciating of other people. And demonstrate sincerity. Don't just say, oh, it's really great. Like actually just sit with it for a second and really just appreciate what they've brought to the meeting or the conversation, and you will have a fan for life. Okay, so those are basically all of the major components here. So here is a quick recap, the 3 steps that you want to pull together for successful communication. Audience first. You're using those clues we just talked about to notice, who am I speaking with? What are the clues? What have they shown me already? How would they like to be treated? The golden rule does not apply. Not everyone wants to be treated the same way. I know, well, except for respect, that's probably a general one, but there are subtle nuances. So notice that. And what is my audience's motivation? Go back to those 4 R's again. What are they looking for? What is the shade of their glasses that they're looking at the world through? Notice that. Secondly, then take a look at, do a self-check, take a look at yourself. Who am I in comparison or contrast? Are we the same? Do we see the world the same way? Or are we different? And then we need to, third, adjust or bust. This is key. You have to adjust your approach to appeal to their natural motivation. If it's different, you have to think about, again, matching their energy or pace. If they're high energy and they're up here and you're a reserved person, you will lose them. So you got to bring the energy up, even though it's really challenging for you in that moment, in that meeting, in that correspondence and connection. You have to match where they're at. If you're high energy and you're like, oh my God, this is so great, and you're dealing with someone who's reserved, you need to bring your energy and your pace down so that they can connect with you. If you're moving too fast, you will lose them. So those are some of the biggest things. Match their energy and their pace and speak from their language. This will deepen the communication and understanding, resulting in advancement for both of your goals. If you're trying to sell something or get a job or, bring a project to somebody, you have your reasons for it. Maybe it's, to get a paycheck or whatever it might be, or a project complete. They also have their own goals and ways that they like to do things. So again, it's not about manipulation. It's about meeting the person where they're at. And so you can both feel successful in the results. So that concludes it. I hope that you've been keeping along with your PDF or making notes. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can send me an email or connect with me. You can do your own DISC assessment as well. It's actually electronic, so you can go online, fill it out, and you'll get a report. And you can find them on my website at jennifermaxwell.ca/assessments. So this will give you a great grounded point to know, okay, who am I and where are some of my weak spots? So the part that you're least like, that's the area where you want to build muscle, because that will help you be more well-rounded and balanced. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Please follow me on all my social media channels. They're all the same, at Jennifer R. Maxwell, mind the extra R. You can ask your questions on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and I would be thrilled to share. You can also get in my newsletter. I have a free newsletter, obviously, that goes out every Sunday, and it's full of little ongoing clues and tricks and tips that just helps keep this information fresh in your mind so that you can continue to use these clues throughout your day for great and successful communication throughout your day.